And we are on.
All right. So let me do the introduction for you guys. So welcome to the Czech Firearms Podcast. This is the very second English-speaking episode of the Czech Firearms Podcast. My name is Lucas. Next, on my right, there is a Karl from Check My Guns.
Hello.
That's his name, right?
Yeah.
And today's guest is Rossen Hristov from Tactical Performance Center. So Ross, let me just briefly introduce Ross as a person. Ross is a gunman, is an instructor, is a shooter, ex-soldier, am I right? And basically person who is sharing the knowledge of the performance with firearms among the people. Ross, can you just briefly introduce yourself?
Oh, that's the most difficult part, right? But yeah, Rossen, as you can see from my name, originally I'm from Bulgaria.
I wouldn't actually guess that.
Yeah, right?
I wouldn't.
That's because of the tan, it's sun. It's called sun.
Nice, nice.
But that's the benefit when you're working outside, right?
Right.
Utah sun. So I'm originally from Bulgaria, but currently I live in St. George, Utah, in the United States. And we'll start from the beginning, and we'll progress with the complicated story here. So
Okay.
It's never easy story.
Yeah.
We don't want guys here with easy stories.
but it's interesting, right?
Of
If
course,
it's
must
easy,
be interesting.
like a few words and done. And then it's just...
I mentioned briefly, but we want to go deep.
So I've served in the Bulgarian army for a few years. After that, over 7 years in United States Diplomatic Security Service, everywhere, primarily in Europe. When I'm in the United States, overseas, right? But here it's not overseas. So. And then I have several private contracts in the Middle East, like a tactical instructor. And because I love shooting and I love also firearms, I decided, well, why not to move in the shooting mecca of the firearms, right? And go to United States. So, yep, I went to United States. It was like a completely new page of my life. I started from the very beginning. But interesting, the destiny actually played an interesting game with me. And I met Ron Avery, and Ron Avery is a big name in the industry, in the firearms industry. It's well known, like one of the smartest instructors of 20th and 21st century. A personal friend of Jeff Cooper. Mm-hmm. And he held that spirit. He wanted that spirit of a gunfighter. And again, he approaches the shooting. It's like, it is a martial art. I truly believe it's a martial art, right? And with all the philosophies behind, it's not only that Hollywood perspective that you pull the trigger fast. It's not. First of all, especially handguns are very difficult to master. You need to be a deep thinker for sure in order to recognize the small nuances over there. And he had that approach. He had that very, very scientific approach about shooting. And I knew him from videos before and said, that guy is something different in the world of instructing. So the destiny actually played that funny game with me, so became a very good friend, and later on he became my mentor. Mm-hmm. And what actually put me here on the table is that currently I'm the director of training of Tactical Performance Center, known also like TPC, and that's academy founded by Ron Avery and Ken Nelson. Now, for the guys that don't know Ken Nelson, they know probably Practice Corps. And he is the man behind development of the Practice Corps. And, for people that are competing in the shooting sports, that's one of the probably the best software ever developed for keeping the scores, keeping everything live. And when the last shooter actually completed the course of fire, we don't need to wait like 3-4 hours anymore. We know the score at that very moment. So you can have a lot of database from it. And nice. Ken Nelson and Ron Avery, back like 7-8 years ago, they founded the Tactical Performance Center in order to deliver better knowledge for everybody that wants to be involved in shooting world and to understand a little bit, to have a better understanding of practicality. of the shooting sports as well.
Yeah, Ken is also father of Brian Nelson.
Brian Nelson, which is one of the phenomenons of shooting, because Brian, whatever thing can go bang and he grab it, he can shoot it like a world champion. So
Okay.
that's right. He's a multi-gunner and he's a world champion cowboy shooter. He's also fourth in the world with shotgun and 10th in the world, I believe, or 12th in the world with a rifle. And he's a grandmaster.
Let's say that he's just making his father proud.
Yes, that's for sure. That's for sure.
And that's all for today's podcast, because we actually went through all the topic. That was the best introduction I've ever heard, to be honest. It was great. But let's go back to very beginning of you personally.
We always start with history.
Yeah, definitely. So you grew up in Bulgaria.
Yeah.
And some time ago, let's say. And what got you passionate about firearms, passionate about shooting, or what's the story behind your career, your development?
Professional career, yeah.
So I was in the United States Diplomatic Security Service when, you have a training, you have agency trainings and all that stuff, but most of the times anywhere.
Well, I thought even earlier that did you like firearms from movies as a kid, or did you play with
We were
some
talking about
toys?
a childhood.
Yeah, exactly.
It's more about the martial aspect of it, martial arts in general. It's always, it's attractive to men, right?
Yeah, definitely, absolutely.
It's a warrior
that's how we all
mentality.
started.
It's warrior mentality, and how you can not do it because to be a cool guy. The perspective is how you can have the skills in order to defend others, and also to defend your principles and morals. That's how I approach it.
So that's the way how you were thinking about it from the very beginning.
Probably not at the very, very, very beginning, because we're getting a little bit wiser with time and age.
Definitely.
And you can formulate that later on. But you have that strong sense that, you need to have the capabilities and abilities to stand your ground for whatever is important for you.
Right.
Absolutely.
So did you like or even try shooting firearms before you joined the army?
Oh yeah.
So what was your experience back then? You just got to the shooting range, or did you get your firearms license before the army, or was it even possible back then?
At that point, it was not possible.
Right.
But
okay.
it's just how the
How it
country
was.
Yes, right. So. But in the army, I was always intrigued. Actually, the biggest gun that I've served in Strela 10. Strela 10, it's actually a missile, ground-to-air missile system that is based on a armored vehicle. It's a Russian type.
Right.
At that point, it was secret, not anymore, I believe so. Because, the interesting thing because it's a Russian type of a weapon, right? When I went to Air Force Base in United States, and they had a museum over there, and I saw that's actually the system that I served, but you have it here, and it's kind of Russian. I truly believe it's not secret anymore. So.
No, if you saw it in a museum.
Yeah, of course. It's an old one, but I can say that's the biggest gun that I fired. And not only fired, I hit.
Okay.
I hit. It means it was not an actual target during any kind of a warfare, but it was during a training. So our targets at that point, it was a tracer, a howitzer, reduced charge howitzer tracer.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Interesting.
And I always have that feeling, that you can put a thing on a thingy, press something, and you hit it, right?
Yeah.
It's.
So what? If we start with your career in the Bulgarian army, so you were. Your specialty was this missiles, like
yes, it's ground-to-air
so
missile
nothing
strikes.
like infantry or sniper training or something like that.
No, we all carried AKs, right? And
from Arsenal.
Yes, obviously, right? And we had a training shooting with them and all that stuff. We also trained with pistols, handguns. Don't ask me about the brand. It was old Makarov.
Right.
But
Yeah, it is what it is.
it's a thing, you know.
Yeah.
It's not a bad firearm. It's almost like a Walther. If you know all the core principles of shooting, it can be pretty accurate, and
Absolutely.
you can be
cool.
very decent with it.
Cool. Do you have one, for example, in your kind of like collection just for the good old times?
No, but I have an AKM.
Oh, right.
Of course, semi-automatic.
So you
one.
don't have this kind of like nostalgia for the old times in military?
I have it for big guns like missiles and stuff like that, but
But not for the
firearms.
small
For me, it's enough to have all my CZs. I love my CZs, so that's good enough.
arms. Right. Understand.
Thank you for the spoiler.
You're right.
So for how long you were in the Bulgarian military, Bulgarian
It was a
army?
few years.
Few years.
Yeah,
just okay.
that was the situation over there, and then it happens like this. So I went and served in the United States Diplomatic Security Service for a
And
time.
that happened how? Actually, you just had a friend who,
And that's
who was
something
there.
that it's their processes that you cannot review all of them.
Okay,
Let's
okay.
let's keep it a little bit more mystical.
Okay. All right. So with this Americans, I'm never gonna pronounce it right. Was it Security Service? No.
No. It was
Diplomatic Service. you say.
Diplomatic
You're right.
Security Service. Yes.
So you spent 7 years?
About 7 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit longer than 7 years. Yeah.
Interesting.
So it was the main objective was protection of the diplomats, U.S. diplomats.
Yeah, the VIP.
Yeah,
VIP
VIP.
security.
And it's more, it's like executive protection.
Can if it's not like top secret or something classified, can you tell us any like interesting story from that time?
Again, that's sensitive,
classified.
but probably one of the interesting things is like we had a situation when it was we had a suspicion of a improvised explosive device mounted on a vehicle. Right, and we totally, secured the area. We called the bomb squad. Everything was separated, and they found out that it was not an actual device, but it was a training device because they had practice about a few months ago.
Okay.
But somehow they missed to remove it. But that means that an interesting thing
That's
that I
perfect
spotted.
practice.
I
That's
spotted.
perfect practice.
I
You
spotted,
spotted.
and I was a freshman at that point. So
Nice, good job.
it was interesting at that point. Yeah,
It was
So
like a
it
confirmation that you did good.
I was interesting. It's interesting to. It's developing a completely different mindset and awareness, right? Most of the civilians are very, very happy and very in something that Jeff Cooper will say it's condition white, that you don't have clue what's happened with your surroundings.
Yeah.
Like in such kind of a job, you learn to actually function and to be way more aware, to be aware of even the simple things. You need always to notice something that it's kind of suspicious, right? Like an activity or like a presence, and yeah. So I like such kind of a different level of awareness.
One would say keep your eyes open, but it's it's not just that simple as it sounds.
Yes, but I believe that it's actually will be helpful in general for life. Because you start noticing more things and you're way more aware, noticing details, asking yourself questions, and you start to be more present in life in general.
I would say that it's kind of can make you paranoid a bit.
Depends on the person and depends how much.
Sounds a bit more like that. That you're present. You're noticing little things, and then you start making up the stories behind that. So you can be a little paranoid.
Depends how intense you are, in your mind.
Yeah, of course.
I look at it from different perspectives.
Yeah.
So let's say I always think that people are, or we, the current population, we are so self-centered. Because I'm self-centered as well. Because every time I go out, I'm usually put my headphones on, and play some nice music. Just enjoy. It's so simple and it's so joyful to just enjoy some good music, and you just care about yourself. You don't have, if you are alone, blah blah blah. You just enjoy yourself and you are there. But in some situations, it's better to have, like, as we mentioned, your eyes open and just be aware what's going on, so you can pick up the small things from life. It doesn't need to be a threat.
Sure.
But you can just pick up the small things and from the life and just notice what's going on.
And then you have all these habits that when you're in a restaurant, you pick the right place behind the table, so you see the entrance.
It's kind of a habit. It's becoming a habit.
You have 2 or 3 escape ways already counted in your mind where you're going to go.
Like Aragorn from Lord of the Rings, like you will be, sitting in the corner, like smoking the cigarette, or with your half of the face covered, like.
It's a situational awareness, so you're way more aware. And you can notice way more in general.
Absolutely.
It's not necessary to be, specifically related to a specific topic or work orientated or something, but you start to catch up small details and small nuances in life. So I think it's useful in general.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And it's very useful later on for even in competition shooting.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So after the 7 years in diplomatic service, you decided to quit and move on because it was just too much for you. Or 7 years is a long time.
You reach a point that you need to search and you need to challenge yourself in other directions. So there was a good point at that point. There was several interesting opportunities for contracts, like. Firearms instructors, and I was already kind of wanted to focus to be a little bit more in depth into the firearms, the martial arts of the firearms, more specific about it, and there were some good opportunities. So
you already start like profile yourself to be a teacher, to start teaching.
I was very interested about it.
Yeah.
And I was already teaching at that point, and I was observing a lot of other instructors and styles of teaching. And because instructing by itself, it's an art, right?
Definitely.
How to actually gain the audience interest, how to make a course or whatever curriculum it is, not only just to give it a dry information, but how to make it an experience for the trainee. Because the ability of a trainee to retain the information, it's all about the good instructor. If they have a good instructor, they will approach a topic in general with way greater respect, with way more interest, and that can lead them to become top professionals in that particular environment.
Yeah, we have a saying in Czech for this. So there are people who do, and they who can't do, they teach.
Right.
Well, it's completely different thing if you can do it, to transfer that knowledge on someone else. That's usually my problem. I can learn stuff, but I have no idea how to transfer that to someone else.
Now, and there's a type of different, because we're talking about firearms, we're talking about shooting. We'll give an example with shooting, but it's a principle thing. Yeah. A great shooter can be a super good world champion, actually applying that, but cannot be a good teacher. It happens.
Exactly.
It's and vice versa. You don't need to be the best in the world, but you can provide the information really well and to have a top understanding about it, right?
So
a good teacher.
Yeah. So as a teacher, what's your specialty? Is it with a handgun, just a pistol, or what sort of training? All sorts of training probably, but usually you are specialized in some sort of way.
All sorts of training, but our kind of main flagmanship, let's say it like this. It's a performance marksmanship with the firearms. That means with the rifle, with the handgun. Like a Handgun Mastery, it's our flagman, like the most popular class, and it's. So
it's not like sniper.
No,
training.
No, it's
not like long distance precision.
So
shooting.
far, we're not teaching a long range distance. They're specialists just in that area because it's an art and science in that area, and you can it's completely new martial art over there.
Yeah.
For sure. Our specialty, it's, again, marksmanship, practical marksmanship. That means we're adding time and accuracy, like a factor, and how to perform really well with a handgun or a rifle in such kind of dynamic, practical conditions, understanding of that. Now, and because it's a kind of a core that it's equally applicable for self-defense situations or law enforcement and even military, regardless of offensive or defensive needs. But also the same way, all the core principles are absolutely adequate for competition shooting. Now we kind of have the two directions from there: self-defense or competitive shooting, like dynamic or practical competitive shooting as well. So,
right,
these two directions. But the core is the same: understanding the core skills and principles, how to able to control the gun and to achieve that high level of performance of it, with multiple shots under speed, and to keep the accuracy at the same time. That's our main specialty.
Everything happens on a shooting range when you're training, and the shooting range is about the distances. Mostly you're shooting are like 25 meters, 50 meters, or how big range you need for this kind of training?
Now for pistol, you can go up to 50 meters. You can even try to 100 meters if you like to. But Handgun Mastery, like a class, it's a very unique and specific. We have our own targets, and everything is about understanding the principles behind the performance, and everything is about diagnostics. So at the moment that you able to diagnose and understand that particular skills, you can do it in 4 meters, you can do it in 7 meters. Actually, we barely reach more than 7 meters.
Okay.
But applying the same principles, you can actually transfer that skill to a bigger perception of depth and reach 50 up to 100.
Of course.
Yep. If you know what you need to do and how to do it, and you have also the awareness how it feels like when you do it right, distance is just another factor.
Another factor.
That's it. Nothing else.
Right.
It's not simple, I need to say.
No,
I need to admit.
It sounds like a science, and it is a science.
One can say it's just 7 meters, man, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, of course, but
yeah, it's...
At the time pressure, at the stress level.
Yeah, but you are trying to focus on very details.
Well, you actually did the course, right?
I did that.
So,
I did two of the TPC courses. I'm planning to do more.
How about you tell us what's your impression from the course?
So recently we did a Handgun Mastery, the TPC Handgun Mastery, first time in Czech Republic. That should be noted. It was very close to place I live, so I really enjoyed it. And Ross right here, have been so nice to come over and share his experience with the Czech community, which I really admire. Thank you for that.
It was a pleasure and honor. So.
But back to my experience. So
before you say your experience, I must say that Lukáš is actually really good shooter. He shot already. We counted like 6 million rounds. Something around that with your hands, so a lot.
But most of it was like just dumping the magazine.
Of course. But anyway.
But you can try.
It just sounds good. If you put a big number there, it sounds good.
Yeah.
No, you can develop. What you do actually developing your neural pathways, and regardless if you're just dumping or not, at least the body and the brain are conditioned to let's say, stay still or accept the recoil without doing some wrong things and bad habits, right?
Well,
so let's say
there was a part in the class which you need to make the shot natural, because for very beginning shooters, there's that aspect that they are just afraid of the it's hard to explain, but some of the shooters are just deeply. There's something deep in their body which is just afraid. So the basic human reaction on the shot is just tightening the muscles,
to be stiff,
or flexing, somehow. So one of the aspects of the training was just get rid of the stress from the shot. So I could skip that just because I shot too much. So if the shot is for me like nothing, like take a breath or something.
Allow me to actually compare that, let's say, with professional boxing, because again, It's principles. That means they're applicable in multiple levels in multiple directions, right? Very natural reflex that we have deeply ingrained in our mind. If somebody tries to throw a punch on you, you blink at least, when you get punched. Now, in professional boxers, they need to overcome that, and even if they get punched, they need to keep their eyes open because they need to see if there is a secondary punch that can be a knockout punch, right? It's the same with the firearm. It's deeply ingrained in our subconscious mind that you're holding something that will go bang pretty loud and will jump. So our natural instinct is to actually hold it tighter and to prevent it from jumping, right?
Yeah.
In order not to jump out of your hands. It's not going to, but it's subconsciously developed habit also. So the idea of that exercise is to accept everything, to preset everything in that way, in that manner that will be under a perfect control, and just to let it happen without reacting on it in any kind. So you need to avoid any kind of sympathetic squeeze of the fingers. You need to avoid also blinking. You need to avoid any kind of emotional proactive reaction. Yes.
And see, that's
that's the proper way how to say it.
Yeah. So, that's for one, there's a very good explanation, but that's when my experience is coming from. So there is from TPC, when you are getting the class from a TPC, there is always decent, logical, and immediate answer. Because there are some people at different levels.
So it's not like do that. Why? Because I said it.
I said so. Yeah. So there is always an answer. So that's what we discussed with the rest of the class, and which took place recently. So they've been just satisfied with the quality of the information because there is a scientific background, and the whole course is just simply built on the perfection, but it's all logical. It does make sense.
Don't bring Glock into it.
All right.
Why? 5 generations of perfection. Come on.
Yeah. So everything just does make sense, and so you are not because we are Czech, right? So we are always not very satisfied with the stuff we are getting. So we're always like, it cannot be like that. I'm not doing it like this, and I'm fine. Yeah. So we are always trying to, fight the new ideas a little bit before we kind of receive them and
accept them.
So
really.
You're skeptical, which is good because that's how science works, right?
Yeah,
always you have a thesis and you have a skeptical approach to that thesis. You need to prove
exactly.
That's it.
Exactly.
So was it proved?
Yeah, basically everything was proved. And for some people, we shot approximately 800 rounds or something for 3 days. I'm not sure. I'm just guessing.
1,500 is the course, more or less.
Okay. So I'm not aware. But basically, you can say that you are just, one would say from a third perspective, one would say that you are dumping the rounds to the ground, but you need to be focused on the very little details. So, I did some shooting with the pistol back in the day, but I never really focused at such details while really or actually holding the pistol and performing the shots. So there is you can focus on tiny details regarding to the strength of the grip, the position of your hands, the sight alignment and trigger work and the as Ross is saying, the awareness. So it's all there. So you're basically, you just need to make the life experience to really focus and then gain. So after some repetitions, I've been just dumbfounded. You're like, oh, okay. I just emptied the magazine, and after that they were like, oh, okay, here we go. All right, and then you see the other guys making the immediate progress, while there is a recoil. So immediately you can see that the pistol after the shot is just still. So the only part which moves is just the slide, and then you see the empty case, blah blah blah. I was like, oh, that's impressive.
So it sounds like you had a lot of fun and you learned a lot of stuff.
Not really. So we had a fun.
No fun.
No, you know, let me be precise. So we had a fun in the meantime. So it's always fun. It needs to be like that. But during the actual course, it's a serious business, man. It's a serious business. So if you take it seriously and you are trying to think about it, it's you know, your brain gets tired. Well, so it's about muscles, you know, it's about the strength, muscles, and the brain. But the memory, you are basically gaining new stuff. You are learning stuff.
That's hard. That's always
and
hard.
you need to think about it more.
Exactly.
Because sometimes with my pretty much latest experience with the shooting is mostly on the muscles. So you're just sending the basic information to the muscles. But now we've been really thinking about stuff. That's my experience.
And it's all about it. You know, this is what we are claiming, that the difference between just any kind of practice and high level of practice that will be really, really useful is the level of awareness. And that level of awareness is not only to seeing stuff, but it's something that we call it kinesthetic awareness, the ability to feel the different muscle groups, the different tendons, how stiff they are, which one are working, which one are relaxed. Even a simple small muscle, how you can able to separate that, you know, without engaging the entire muscle groups. And that first to kind of get the idea how to separate that muscles and how to use just the particular muscles, that's some serious thinking and also experimenting, because, you know, everybody, we feel our bodies in a different way. And some people are great in that proprioception and the dexterity of their bodies. And some people, you know, we have the biggest problem with the guys that are lifting heavy, because for them, absolute everything is a gross motor skill. That means that they're involving the bigger muscle groups, and they have huge trouble to separate and to actually achieve fine motor skills, like a trigger pull. It's a clear example of a fine motor skill. So, and vice versa. A lot of ladies, females, they're way more sensitive about the fine motor skills, and that's why, especially at the beginning, they progress way faster. That's one of the reasons. The other reason is that they don't have ego behind. Yeah. Oh, I'm not. You know, I'm a man. You know, so I watch a lot of Hollywood movies. So
of course, I do perform well. Of course, man.
I know.
I'm the man.
Yeah.
So they follow orders.
Yeah, that's good about a woman.
It's not so much about that. It's more about the awareness.
It was a joke. Of course, it was a joke.
I don't know about these days if they're following orders. Actually,
no.
The best way and the most the fastest way to put yourself in a trouble is to make a girl follow orders, right? So that's tough. That's tough these days. Whatever.
Yeah. I wanted to ask, because you're talking a lot about the muscles, about how you move. How is it with guns and their ergonomics? Is it basically the same? Doesn't matter if you hold a Glock, SIG, any pistol, because
or the old Makarov or something,
or old Makarov.
It might be whatever.
Are there any kinds of firearms that are easier, better to work with, or other way around?
Now, what is good about our system, that we are so focused about the principles, so we have not only to apply the principles, but to have the deepest understanding of those principles. And that makes you less equipment dependent. That means regardless of the firearm.
So it doesn't matter.
But obviously ergonomics, they matter. And I'm surprised of some of the really great brands that are proven with years and years and years, why they have such kind of ergonomical decisions. Some of them, you know, and it's obvious that, you know, let's say I'll give you an example that at the top of the frame of the gun, you need a pressure over there, which is closest part to the barrel axis, right? Why a lot of companies are making the frames of the guns very thin over there? You need more pressure there, and you know, more material will lead to more pressure over there. And in my conclusion is because they hire engineers of ergonomics, but they don't have a clue about the modern shooting techniques.
There is always a combination, man. It's not that simple.
Yeah, probably.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
There are, designers. They are like, and also the artists. That's a big topic actually.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. The designer is supposed to make it look cool. Then you have the engineer of ergonomics, and then you need to have the practical expert in that, right? And
the manufacturing process, how to make it relatively cheap, also.
Yep, and efficient to manufacture. Yeah.
But there are some big brands that they probably, let's say, design everything for a little bit older techniques of shooting as well. That's also a factor.
That leads me to the question: what was your very first firearm, by the way?
That was actually, it was a 6-hour. I think it was 2009, first one, and it because I was a big fan of 6-hour at that point. Mostly,
long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, but mostly affected by literature, and that was the model that popped up at that time, something.
Right.
But I still own in Europe. I own a 226, and I think it's a great gun. It means
226 is awesome.
226 is I think in my opinion, that's the best 6-hour. So. I prefer it from 320s. I like the iron guns, first of all, and I'm a double single action guy. It means I like the double single action. And
so better than striker fire.
Is it your pickup even for EDC? If you decide to carry?
Yeah, I carry it. That's my carry gun in Europe, in Bulgaria. So it's a full size gun, right? It's not probably the most comfortable, but it's quite reliable. But in the United States, of course, right now I love CZs. I love my CZs.
Nice.
And I have for carry, I carry a PO7, again double single action open hammer gun, and I also have a P10 compact with optics on it. So great carry gun as well. Even if it's a strike fire, it doesn't matter. Plus, the P10 trigger, like a striker fire, I think is one of the best of the box striker fire triggers because it's super crisp. You can take that slack off immediately. You know when you have the actual trigger pull. I love crisp triggers. I like that definitive difference between, the pre-travel and the actual trigger pull. Love it.
But as I mentioned, you don't need much when it comes to the piece of performance. You just need to follow the list.
Yeah, some very specific requirements.
And it might be whatever you find.
And a simple frame, a very simple and kind of a parallel grip, so you don't need a lot of curves in the grip, because you're adding more curves in order to correspond to human anatomy and ergonomics. But every single time when you add something like a curve, you make it very specific for a specific hand size, specific type. You need to have a universal grip. And I truly believe that the most simple, a parallel, a little bit more squarey type of grip is the best so far. 2011s, Glock grips, by the way, simple, the one without the grooves, and they remove it. They have the first generation and they have the fifth generations. Voila, after 4 more generations of perfection, they came back to the original. So congratulations about that. And the simpler it is, the better. Like Shadows, Shadow 2s, original 75, after that, the simpler the better.
But that's this period of time. So the difference is in the details.
Yeah.
Speaking of the cars, I always say that the electromobiles, that's a different story, okay? But for the classical engines, diesel or gas, they are basically working with the same principles, right? But we have tons of options in these days. You can have all the fancy controls, you can have all whatever you want. Same with the firearms. So in the with today's developing of the firearms, I feel that there is the natural desire to bring new options, to bring new features.
Yeah.
Man, we need new features. We need something different. And sometimes it can be good. It can be very, admired.
It's a hit and miss.
Feature. But
Hit
it
and
can be
miss.
also waste of time and something which will be disaster possibly.
Plus, also, right now the market, it's about, oh, this gun looks cool, because people that do not know so much and they are not so involved deeper in the firearms, industry and the actually recognizing the martial aspect and of everything, and they're not so technical proficient, let's say, in shooting, they will choose the gun how cool it looks like, right?
And there's a lot of people like this in these days.
For sure. I think that most of the people
you
were like this.
recently mentioned the number of the new gun population in the US, new gun owners in the US, and it was like millions.
Oh yeah, it was over 10 million, right? Just after some of the situations that happened recently, riots and etc.
That's the reason why the primers are so expensive or hard to get, right?
Yeah.
Over
Impossible to get.
Thank you.
over 10 million new gun owners.
Wow.
In the United States, just because of that phenomenon. Just because of that phenomenon.
You wanna restrict it selling ARs? I will start buying ARs even harder.
And it's interesting that most of these new gun owners were people that were not, they were a little bit more anti-gun, right? And they lived in the states and towns and cities that are more anti-gun, kind of orientated. But at some point, they will realize that nobody will help at that very moment. And again, we need to reach that point that we need to understand, like people in general, if we need to call ourselves free citizens, we need to realize that the most sovereign right, philosophically said, is the right for self-defense or ability to protect the loved ones, regardless, right?
Yeah.
If you delegate that rights to a third party, even the police, like an organization, you're becoming dependent. You cannot call yourself free citizen anymore. Plus, let's put some numbers really quickly right now.
Yeah.
Like, let's say a violent crime.
Yeah.
The time frame for committing a violent crime, it's from 30 seconds to 45 seconds according to the statistics. Let's say.
And where the hell is the policeman?
You have it in your pocket.
According to the US statistics, the fastest time for a policeman to react, it's 2.5 seconds if you're absolutely lucky to have a cruiser in the next block, right? It can take 15, sometimes it's taking close to an hour. People cannot realize that police is not going to prevent a violent crime. They will
always
go,
come
they'll
after.
collect, they will collect, evidence.
They will pick up the brass for you.
Yeah. They will start the investigation and all that stuff. But all that are post-event actions that are not going to prevent, let's say, put it that way. That's not going to prevent if somebody shoots your daughter over there, right? Or rape your daughter. And at that point, are you responsible or your daughter is responsible in the ability for self-defense, especially when you're talking about females, even if they're very, very good in some kind of a martial art, still they cannot overcome a
body weight.
Body weight and muscle power of a mid-age, strong male. It's a factor. It is a factor. So the only equalizer actually is the ability of a firearm. The only equalizer.
Yeah, that's why we have the weight limits in MMA or martial arts.
Exactly.
Martial arts.
Exactly. And people always attacking the firearms like they're dangerous because they kill people. No, people kill people.
Yeah.
Bad guys will kill people with everything can be turns to a weapon,
with
right?
the pencil.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I think we have also our own perspective to look at it, as we don't live in US, but in Czech Republic, where we if you have certain set of things you have to pass to get your license, then you can buy a firearm, you can concealed carry it for your own protection. I really appreciate this right, but I also take it as really as a right that you need to accomplish. You need to get, not like in some states in US where you can really just buy it because you're more than 18 years old. So we definitely need to balance that, but absolutely I love the right to carry a firearm, to defend myself, and it needs to be protected this way.
Every right, it's a responsibility
exactly,
as well.
right and responsibility.
Just that people need to be aware about, a little more aware about the responsibilities that are carrying, right? And it is responsibility, but it's also a right. It's a right for a free individual, free citizen. So yes, I truly believe that there will be more training, especially about the safe handling, to keep it safe, and to have a little bit more respect and knowledge of also the legal aspect of where it's appropriate to actually apply your rights at that point, and what kind. Again, every right is a responsibility. You need to have the basic knowledge what freedoms that right actually is guaranteeing to you. Right?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And you can, in Czech Republic, for example, you can lose that right also. But even if you don't do any like really like violent act, you can break the law with your car, for example,
for speeding,
speeding, and all this kind of stuff that can add up. So you lose this right. So you really have to protect it yourself with your behavior. That's what I like about it. That I really feel privileged that I'm being trusted by the state, so I can carry a gun for my protection.
You're just law-abiding citizen.
Exactly.
You have to be law-abiding citizen.
You need to be. In the States, it's the same. If you're a felon, it means if you're prosecuted and you're actually a felon, you don't have a right to carry a gun. It's taken away. It's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's just from our perspective in Europe, we have each country is different, and not just because different laws, but different languages and currencies and everything. In States, it's just really big mess for us as one currency, one nation, different laws in every state. Must be quite a mess.
It's up to the state as well. It means there are different laws on the state, and it's in some states it's way much easier to obtain, and you have that constitutional right and something that they call the constitutional carry, that you don't need to have any specific course actually to go and start even carrying concealed, because in the States that's different. Some of the states you can open carry and you don't need a course for that, but you need to open carry visible from 3 angles. That's kind of a good prevention. It's not flagging, it's everybody will say, oh, but I'll be scared, see a firearm. Really? You're watching horror movies or movies full of violence every single day, every single night, but you're scared. You see people decapitating over there in that movies and a lot of bloody stuff, but you're scared just from seeing a firearm, a real firearm. That will be scared, or you have some kind of phobia. So you need to go and actually check with psychiatrists. That's a bullshit. Sorry for the language, but it's I cannot accept that. The problem is that firearm is a firearm. It's a tool. It's a tool like a kitchen knife. It's a tool like a car keys and something else. Firearm is not going to kill by itself. It's the person behind it. And everybody's talking right now these days about the firearms, and they are villainized, but nobody's talking about the movies that propagate violence, the computer games that propagate violence in a very sensitive age of people, teenagers, and that forms their mentality, and they are thinking about everything in their perception of the world in general. Of course there will be a violence, of course, because this is how you set up the way of thinking, their value system and everything else. the firearm is just a tool. They will use a car. They will use anything else, actually, if they decide to do something bad. Nobody can prevent that. Firearms are not the problem. The problem is everything else.
People.
I can say the problem is the indoctrination of the young generation.
Probably, but I believe I'm very sorry for that.
We like games.
I like it as well. Not very much in these days, but I played back.
No
in the
time
day.
for that anymore.
But you can put a clear border between games and the reality, right?
Yeah.
With the young mind,
So
sometimes, especially when there's a lot of kids that are introverts these days. Kids becoming less and less social in these days, and sometimes they can lose the connection with reality
Yes.
and what it's a game and what's a reality. And then things that they can do things in the games and they will do exactly the same in the reality, and they without consequences.
Well, that's more like what I feel. That's the problem with the events that are happening lately in US, and that's that if you look at the guys who are usually the main characters of those events, they are in deep trouble and no one can really help them. Like in like before something really happens.
And you know what is the thing? That there was a clear signs of some kind of psychological disorder or something that will. And agencies, most of the agencies, they knew about it, and they didn't take any precautions about it at that point. Why? Now that's a big question, right? If you have somebody, especially a teenager, where quite unstable in that age, any human being is quite unstable in that age, but you have kind of sides that they can do something stupid. Why that it's not taken under consideration, and why, let's say in their social environment, like schools and anything else, they are not trying to prevent that and actually to teach them to morals, the proper morals and values. Any other measures that are taken?
Yeah,
it would be just hard. That's why not. That's why they don't do it. It's hard. It's hard work, and I agree with that. That it should be prevented in a way that they know how to work with the kids like that. Because we all know kids like that from when we were kids. The outsiders, the guys who don't know how to be part of the collective. They are the scary ones, actually.
Yeah.
So
unfortunately, there will always be violence because it depends on the situation. So we can. I can be a violent guy. If I will be in a bad situation, if something changes in my mind, and I will start I don't know drinking or be drug addict or something. It's changing those events or those those things are just simply changing yourself. And it depends on the situation. It depends on how you've been raised. That depends. There's so many aspects of it. So unfortunately, there always be violence somehow.
And that's what actually a lot of people, including some of the leaders right now in today's civilizations, they are totally disconnected. Universe, that material world that we exist in. Violence is one of the significant factors in general there. You believe that there will be a world without violence? All right. If you believe in that, take your clothes off. Don't pick up nothing, not a single tool, not a knife, and let somebody drop you in the jungles of Amazonia, let's say, or somewhere in a wild.
Fingers crossed, man.
Yeah, and see how long you will survive over there. Not bad people, not somebody else. Nature is beautiful, but it's cruel. It's super cruel. That's how it is.
Yeah.
And if you think that we can just escape violence because you pretend that it's not existing, that's a very, very delusional. It's better to have your means and qualities to actually, you have the abilities to protect yourself and to survive and never use them. That's awesome.
That's far from reality.
Yeah, but to be helpless, that's not going to make you a better man, and definitely you're not going to contribute to the society because you cannot defend your value systems. You think, helplessness is not going to make you a better person, period. That's obvious. That you're just helpless.
Period. Once I hear period, then it's done. And when this topic was really heavy, so I would like to move on to something a bit more cheerful.
Sure.
So we spoke a lot about the US. So you decided to move to US. How long time ago?
It was like over 7 years ago.
7 years
it
ago.
was relatively recent, right?
So your reasoning behind that was, let's move to the mecca of firearms,
because of shooting, because of firearms.
How was
Exactly.
it? How was it? It's not always.
Well, was it easy even?
Yeah, that's the question.
It was like pushing a reset button to your life in general, right?
Yeah.
And it's not in a very early age, so it was a challenge at the beginning because United States. It's different. Like in any aspect, it's different. It's different culturally. It's different even infrastructural. It's very different from Europe in general. But that's a good challenge, and it's also a booster for your life. Sometimes we need boosters, right?
Yeah.
And I do not regret it at all. You know, it means great people over there. I made great friends. And also, it makes you wiser because you see a different perspective. You understand another culture. It's at the other side of the world. So you need to jump over a big pond of water, right? But the most important, and that's understanding every single culture in the world. I truly believe that makes you wiser because you start understanding the specifics and of the behavior of the people. You understand, cultural specifics, but you understand that in general, and again, it's any culture regardless, because I used to travel a lot, right? In general, you get news that people believe in they have the core values, the same thing, it's a common good. Truly believe that people in core they believe in a common good, and of course there are a lot of circumstances and factors that can make them a bad persons and actually to become villains, or at that point they react in a different way.
So you knew already when you were start like planning where you're gonna move that it's gonna be Utah?
No. Actually, when I moved, I used to live about 1 year and 3 months in Las Vegas. Definitely, it's not my city because first I don't like gambling in general. But I had a friend.
How come that you just appeared in Las Vegas?
Yeah, because I had a friend that
cheapest flight.
Yeah, exactly.
Cheapest flight from Bulgaria.
I have a friend. He was a former Marine, and he has a good buddy. So when you move in another country that you don't know many guys over there, you don't know much about them. Culturally in general, not only in movies, I need to. I visit the United States several times before that, but in order to understand everything, tourist.
You need to spend a little time
tourist
there.
Point of view, it's completely different from the actual social point of view when you already living there. So. You need a buddy to kind of give you the directions at that point. So that was the main reason. But I do not regret because the Destiny actually played an interesting game with me. I knew Ron Avery not in person before that, but from videos primarily. I remember that I watched him, and I watched him at that point. He was working with Travis Haley, and I thought that guy, it's something different. It makes me, a very, very strong impression about Ron, his scientific approach, his different type of very analytical, at the same time very practical analysis and application of when you're talking about principles of shooting, and say that he is a different instructor. So. Yeah. The Destiny played an interesting game, and later on, actually, we met on a practical competition match, like a USPSA, which is the American version of IPSC matches. And we have chats, and we like each other, and later on, I received an offer to start helping with the TPC classes.
That's like a dream, man.
And then I
American
became a lead instructor. He became my mentor, yeah, I remember evenings and evenings we were talking about shooting hours and hours and hours. He was very that was his
It's
life.
passion. Yeah.
I always thought that you moved to the US just to be an instructor for TPC. I never. So what was obviously not. That's not true. Obviously.
That was my ambition to become an instructor and to become, one of the recognizable names like an instructor. It's not because ego. It's a feeling of a personal achievement.
Yeah.
I love to teach and to share information because I think a knowledge that it's unshared knowledge, it's a dead knowledge, right? It will die at some point.
Absolutely.
So you need to pass the knowledge to people, and I really enjoying the moment when you see in a student's eyes that aha moment, and you lead them until they get to their own conclusions. It's an interesting journey, and it's a creation in a specific type. I really admire creation.
So you just landed in Las Vegas and you just started to shoot competitions, or getting the contacts and meeting people, or what did you do?
I started shooting competitions in my free weekends. Actually, my friend actually arranged me in a shooting range, so I become like an instructor in a shooting range, indoor shooting range. But in Vegas, it's more entertainment. It means it's for the tourists. Tourists want to shoot machine guns, and it's not a level of instruction that can be satisfactory. It's just overwatching somebody not to shoot himself or to do something stupid, but at the beginning, you need a job, so you jump in something.
That's the level like a construction worker in the shooting field, that you do the instructor for tourists.
And during the weekends, actually, was my kind of main focus, because getting out of that environment, that it's not the most satisfactory environment, but to go and actually participate in a local club matches and all that stuff. And they were like, people, who is that guy that actually come here with a funny accent and start kind of
kicking our ass?
Kind of, to a certain degree. Depends who is in the match, but
So, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
It is American dream. It's like Arnold Schwarzenegger packing his stuff from Austria and traveling all to US.
It was literally a reset button.
But obviously it was a good start. So it was a community.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So
shooting community is
good.
very supportive.
Yeah, a lot of people start with the cleaning dishes.
Yeah.
Or like McDonald's.
I'm very focus orientated, and I want to have something related, and I need to have something related to it, because it's kind of, when I do something, I leave a part of my soul over there, so at least it's need to be something related. So otherwise, it's kind of killing me. I cannot imagine. It's a lot of people. Just look at a lot of people are they're working jobs that they hate. Not only they do not enjoy, but they really hate, and it's like you selling 8 hours at least of your life every single day just to live the rest of it. Doesn't make sense. Make sense.
Yeah, that's the real tragedy.
And they have the compensatory effect, right? When they're out of the job, they do something stupid because they need to relieve that, and basically they're not doing what they want to do, and it's a kind of trap. It's a trap of the modern society. And yes, the other way, it's a little bit more risky. I should say it's quite risky, but I truly believe that we need to follow the dreams and to do what actually it's your soul, right? At that point, you're not working. You're not working, right? It's a journey. Life turns to a journey at that point.
It's always the same rule: follow your dreams. But now everybody says that. It starts to feel like
it's just like
say
a
what you
meme,
have to say,
right? It's like a meme.
It's true. It's always true.
But it requires some actions. It requires and risks. You need to be ready to
lose,
sacrifice, to lose, in order to gain something. That's how life is.
That reminds me, just shooting, right? That was just a description.
Competitive shooting.
That's a description of the one shot at the competition.
Yeah. That's how it is.
How it's connected.
Yeah, of course.
Now we're getting it.
Shooting is life.
Yeah,
basically.
man, shooting is life. Yeah.
And to continue the story, with the TPC, sadly, we lost Ron like 3 years ago, close to 4 years right now from bone cancer. He fought that cancer for 3 years, and you know how few people actually knew that he had that problem. And he was in the range to almost the very last day. It means he was living with his creation, you know, and basically the tactical performance center doctrine, the core doctrine that we call the reactive shooting science, because I think that really it's descriptive about the way how we teach, the methodology, the doctrine that we have. It's Ron's development, but it cost him like 37 years of his life actually to observe, shoot, and talk with the best shooters, you know, in the world, regardless of their background. He noticed that it doesn't matter the background, and if it's in a military unit or a law enforcement agency or a top competitive shooter, the top shooters, they are applying pretty much they have something in common, right? In that technical skills and the way how they apply some stuff. And he formulated specific principles of performance that we keep till that present day in our doctrine, in the reactive shooting science. And basically the mission of TPC, the Tactical Performance Center right now, is to continue his legacy, because we truly believe that it's too good to let it fade away.
Yeah.
So that's our main mission right now.
When I did the very first course by led by the TPC, someone just asked me how it went and what's my the biggest experience gained from this. And you know, I don't know, but somehow just the expression crossed my mind, and it was just it's a basic description how to live a life, because it's all connected. You know, I'm now being serious. Okay, that's weird, but you can use the methodology for every day, for waking up, for
So it's a philosophy.
It is. It really is.
And it's interesting that actually Ron let that spark in me to approach life in general, to define, if you want to understand something about life, try to discover and formulate the principles behind that particular thing that you're interested about. And at the moment that you discover and formulate that principles, it's like you're putting the puzzle pieces together and you start understanding life in general. If you start thinking and live life, formulating the principles of existence in general. That's why, one of my hobbies as well is philosophy and reading philosophy, because philosophy is exactly the same. It's a TPC of life.
I mean, we can say you are talking like a book. Yeah.
So how does it work with the courses from TPC? You do it all over the world, because now you're here. You did one in Czech Republic. That was the first one ever. So if someone wants to apply, needs to pick up the place where you're planning to go. Is it like a rockstar tour that you put a list of, I'm going to visit these countries this year, and you can apply for the courses, or how does it work?
Starting traveling more internationally right now, but in general, that's kind of like a rockstar tour in United States.
Yeah.
So we travel from a state to state, it's. Again, we need to be aware.
So in advance what's going to be the specific dates where you're.
Yeah, when you're planning the courses, of course, we have a host for that course that know the local community, and we set up the dates. We say the minimum amount of students, trainees that will make the course doable. Like also from the financial perspective, in order to at least self-sustain, right? So. And then we'll make it happen. And
so usually the minimum is how many, or around?
Depends, but over around 10 up to 12.
And up to 12.
Yeah.
And maximum?
Maximum can be 30, 35.
30,
but we'll bring more instructors. We try to keep the ratio at least 1 to 5. 1 to 5.
You have the range.
Yeah, to be
And we
able
have
to-
some awesome instructors, working with Brian Nelson.
I can say, man, I have
Yeah.
the experience.
He's
So I did the course in California back in 2020, and it was handgun or TPC, sorry, handgun or PCC, by TPC. So I picked up the PCC, but there were only two guys, me and one fella from the US with the sticks.
Very personal.
Right. So, but they had already guys like TPC specialists. So they are guys who shoot everything basically. But we had Zach Smith, awesome
Yeah,
shooter.
you told me about it.
Yeah, and Brian Nelson as well. And then they obviously had a specialist for handguns or specialized guys for a handgun or for a pistol. And so imagine we got separated. At some point you just share the basic knowledge that's same for a pistol and a stick. But at some point we just got separated, and imagine you have your own instructor and there's only two of you.
That's why I say
That's
it's
very
pretty
personal.
Pretty personal. Yeah.
For me, wow, that was like a miracle.
Personal instructor.
Yeah.
And how long does it take usually the courses? A couple days, like 2-3 days?
Yeah, actually, the one that it took, it was that was super camp. We called it a
5
TPC
days.
super camp, and it was more that was orientated completely in
Competition. Yeah.
So Lucas took the competition rotated one. 5 days. That's the longest so far that we have. 5 days. 5 days, but we're shooting a lot. 5 days, like imagine a 5 days of competition.
5 days on the range.
But the most common one, the Handgun Mastery, Handgun Mastery 2, which are the spine of our doctrine, they are 3 days. 3 days.
3 days.
And the reason that 3 days, we find out that the level of repetitions. First day, you're like drinking from a fire hole, right? It means it's a lot of information, a lot of details. A lot of guys get lost a little bit. Second day, you see blisters and they start putting athletic tape on it, but it's kind of right. But third day, everything start coming together, and they see the bigger picture.
So it's like the conclusion of the previous experience,
And
to put it all together.
And there's also, the amount of repetitions at the same time. They get more familiar with some ideas, so they can focus on smaller details. We call them the laser beams, the small tweaks that they will make a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
But you need some accumulation of knowledge and skills and repetitions in order everything to start working together at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But trust me, you need to break after this. Just
yeah.
at least a few days.
After this podcast,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah. But in that case, you really need to put your gun in a safe for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Not to think about anything, because then you really accept the ideas, and then you pick it up after a few days or a week or you name it, and you're like, it's there. It's there. You really feel that nutcracker in your hands, and that's one of the principles.
I feel like I'm gonna apply for the course next time. It's gonna happen.
Nah, man.
If I'll have time.
I don't want to spoil anything, but we are planning to do something.
Oh, okay.
And the courses are not so physically challenging, but they are definitely mentally challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, as I mentioned, it's not simple, man. Yeah,
It's a hard work.
Yeah.
That's why we call it. It's a martial art. In martial art, you need to understand the philosophy behind not only how to do rough things, right? Only technically, but you need to connect them even on an emotional level. The way how we use visual analogies actually to target and trigger directly the subconscious mind. It's a good bypass to shorten the time and increase the quality of training, because that's the final goal. You need to put some kind of a skill set and ingrain that in a subconscious mind. Now, in a normal way, conventional way, you need to, by repetitions, you're developing that skills, and you're using your conscious mind, that's logic and intellect. And by repetitions, after
the muscle
specific
memory.
yeah, actually you're creating a neural pathways, you're creating a new neural pathways, myelination in that process. That's another topic. But yes, but sometimes you can bypass and dramatically kind of shorten the time by paying attention and to stay aware and to focus how it feels like when you do it right. And then connect that feeling with something familiar from your daily life activities. Create that image in your mind, that mental analogy. And only thinking about it, how it feels like, the subconscious mind will take over and will engage the specific muscles and tendons that will recreate that specific effect.
Yeah,
it's interesting. Yeah,
it is. It's also a lot about how you say it, because I like what you're saying now. It makes sense and everything. But if you would be in a way that you put down there the yoga mat, you close your eyes in a lotus sitting, become one with your gun. If you start doing something like that, I would totally reject it. But the way you're saying it, I'm all in.
Man, it's a complex of activities you need to put together. So as I mentioned, it's a detail oriented. So, once you are very focused on your, stiffness in your wrist, but, second time you are just trying to separate your trigger finger, but still remain the stiffness. And then you are applying a vision perspective. And there's so many aspects you need to put together and then make them work, really. So, every time you add something new, you're like, okay, how will I like apply this? It's not simple. So you are trying to fight it a little bit while remaining what you gained before. So that's what makes it so, hard. And also because you're using your mind, you're using your body, you are building new nerve connections, pathways. Yeah, and you are or strengthening the original ones, right? Or creating the new ones. So it's not simple, and that makes you tired, and then makes you really desire that break, which is it's with the physical training as well. So the break is one of the most important parts of the training. No matter if you are lifting weights or if you are gaining the info.
I can imagine the highest level of this, like being aware of what's around you, shooting fast and everything, will be like you're gonna have these targets, flip targets. So once you hit it, flips, another one pops out, but it's not a target. It's like mathematical equation you need to solve really fast and then hit another target.
Yes, that's
so that would be like supermaster level. To do all this stuff at once.
Oh, we have some decision-making equations, in later on, especially in Handgun Mastery 2. Actually, day 2 is all about it. It's the ability to actually put on a test your skills, that you have pure technical marksmanship skills, and to see how well you can retain them in a condition of stress, unknown, and a quick decision-making. Right? It means a lot of external factors and disturbances that you need to overcome. It's a mental process, right? And at the same time to sustain the same level of performance, technical performance of your handgun. That's a challenge.
You need to know how to improvise.
Another thing, as we already said, that it's about the philosophy of not just shooting, but the life itself. I can imagine that a lot of top class managers from big companies would be eager to go through this kind of training, because that can help them to make the right decisions, to see all the bits and pieces, everything. Yeah,
definitely.
That's what actually it's making people that achieved an extraordinary results from the rest. Is just that sensitivity to details and awareness of the details, because you look every person that is actually it's extraordinary in some direction of life. Every single time you notice the level of details, and it's kind of it's completely new universe for them when they start talking about that topic, or the way how actually they approach that particular skill that they have. It's that level of awareness and details and understanding how it works that make them unique, right? It's nothing else. Everybody, we have that pure potential, in us.
Yeah.
The idea is to just stay consistent and put the effort to actually go deeper into that rabbit hole and understand how things works.
That's correct.
Yeah. Should I already ask about the plans for the future?
Yeah, let's do this.
So, do you have any like big plans for the future, or not even big? Like, what are your plans for the future? Or are you just going with the flow? What's gonna happen is gonna happen.
No, you're supposed to have plans in general, right? One of the plans is to make the training even more interactive in general. The second is we'll be so happy actually that the reactive shooting science to be recognized like one of the standards in general in the firearms training, because we truly believe that it's one of the best systems when you're talking about the marksmanship performance in general. And we work with so many law enforcement and military agencies, and every time we hear the same comments at the very end. That was awesome, right? It means it's completely different perspective. So we'll be really satisfied if we have that at the end, that recognition, and mainly because the effort of Ron and the way how actually we continue to try to add more ornaments to it in order to get it more complete in general, like also like a presentation, and to make it easy for the students to digest everything and to make it more holistic in general, right? And from there, it's to see very, very successful new shooters actually understanding and applying that system, and you see how that knowledge actually grows and spreads in any kind of form. Let's keep it over there. It means I'm not going to mention in what kind of form, but just to see that knowledge to spread over the world, of course, amongst the good people, because that is important. We have one of our mottos is to help the good people win, right? Regardless what.
Of course.
It's I think it's the knowledge is the most valuable thing that we actually possess, because I don't know a single person actually took their wealth with them after they conclude that existence here in the world. But knowledge, knowledge, nobody can take that away from you. Yeah. Anything else, it's just
and some practice. Because there are some people who can say, okay, I know Ross from videos, I've seen it on the internet, I've seen the YouTube channel, blah, blah, blah. But you really need that physical experience. You need to be there. So Ross made that question after the very end of the class. And everyone would say just the same. Everyone, every individual just shared the fact that you just need to have that, because we had some instructors, we have like very high ranked people in that class, which I really appreciate. So the quality was there, and they really enjoyed the fact that they have been overwatched by someone else. So they enjoyed being students again, but you really needed physical experience with a little bit of overwatch by someone who's really soaked with the info and who's really living that. And then you just so you are receiving some some aspects, some little kicks to your ass, how to actually do this stuff, and that's how you need to have the complex, because there is you can hear the info multiple times. You can someone can tell you 20 times in a row that you should do this, you should do this, but you need to actually doing this, and that guy can really touch you and just improve it or make it better, and this is it. And then like, sorry, it's hard to express. I'm having a hard time right now, but that person really needs to like express and confirm that you are doing a great job.
So you're telling me that you cannot do it on a home office?
Now, the way how
of course not.
The way how we believe that you actually will receive the most quality information. We call that algorithm of delivery. It's kind of a verbal, visual, kinesthetic. It means you'll be explaining what to do, then we'll see how it's to be done, right? But then you need to do it by yourself. And also there's a lot of instructor hands on the hands in order to reinforce how it's supposed to feels like when you do it correctly. And that feeling is super, super important.
That's why you will never run out of job.
Yes,
because
that's
it needs to be done this way. You cannot just do online courses and
that is correct.
create professionals
Now you
over the
can
internet.
gain a lot of information from that online courses, but you need to confirm and verify. Are you applying? Because there's so little nuances that can make a huge difference. A little bit pressure here, a little bit less pressure over there can have a significant change of the way how, let's say, the gun is behaving or how the proper application of a specific technique.
That's correct. It's like going for training sessions only by your own or by yourself, right? So you should record yourself at least, just because you can still do the bad repetitions all the time. And even though you are record that video on yourself and then you take a look at home, you still have ego. It's still you know, teaching you. Or you
cannot really learn new stuff from yourself.
Yeah.
And there are so many times that you think that you're doing it that specific way, but at the moment that you see yourself like in a third-party perspective, it looks different. Oh, I didn't think that I did it that way. You know, it's
yes,
it's kind of a self-control, but it's helpful.
Yeah, I would love to go through some of these, or even just one of these courses. You really sold it to me.
There you go.
I'm all in. I want to try that now.
Now you're hooked up.
I'm totally hooked up because as we told you before we start recording the podcast, we are totally different kind of like sides of the shooting community, and I was always way more into firearms than shooting itself, and now I'm actually getting into more shooting. So I'm definitely eager to try some of that, and even to suck up the philosophy behind it, because I can identify myself with it. It's nothing against to what I believe. So
absolutely.
It's core principles in general.
It's universal.
Everything. It's universal. That's why
it's for masses.
We call them principle, right? Yeah. Principle is universal. It means it can be applicable in multiple layers, in multiple aspects. That's why it's principle. Yeah. That's a definition of it.
Because if there is a lot of people in the class will go following the weakest part of the chain.
Of course.
Right? But my experience from the US class I participated in is the fact that even though I already had some level, and they've been multiple levels of the skills of the people, so everyone can pick up from it. Everyone, if you are top shooter, or if you are just beginner, or just trying to get in somewhere, or if you are trying to you are fighting the very details you need to solve, everyone can pick up for it. Everyone can gain. And if you hear something which you already know, you can focus on the fact you heard previously. Okay, we can skip that just because I'm convinced that I'm doing it correct. So let's focus on the stuff I gained before that. And it's always helpful.
And that's the reason we have so many repetitive students, because there are some students that took a Handgun Mastery like 7-8 times.
Really?
And every single
Such
time
a bad student.
It's interesting because every next time you're kind of processing the information in a different perspective, because you're already ready to assimilate something else in a completely different level of understanding, if you know what I mean.
You can focus on a very few things at a time.
You can hear one sentence 10 times, and each time you pick
different
up something
nuance.
else from it.
Exactly.
That's correct.
That's the level that you're ready to assimilate at that point.
Man, this is so weird. So that brings me to a story from my personal life.
All right.
Here we go.
And that's accurate to the topic. So let's say that I've been focused on picking up or purchasing the furniture.
Okay.
All right, back in the day. Then I just kind of quit for some time because I was busy with the other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm into picking the same furniture, the same style of furniture again. But this time I'm going for a different one. It's a completely different one. So
you mean the furniture on gun?
It's not going to be AK furniture or any different one, but yes, it might be even the gun furniture.
Yeah.
So the difference is few months, but the decision is completely different right now, based on the knowledge, probably experience.
Mm-hmm.
Knowledge, the knowledge actually will guarantee you the level of experience that you have in general.
Yeah, I still have the links saved on the eShop, right? I was like, I don't like it anymore.
So it's like when you look through the photos from when you were a teenager, for example, and you see yourself, with a flat head and just kind of a rapper phase of your life, and you say, "What a dick."
We discussed it already. We did stupid decisions in the past. Everyone did it.
Yeah.
That's that's the main causes that leads to inventions, or because you always experiment. The entire life you experiment and you trying something new. You actually approach and you see the things in a different way, different perspective, and then you just experiment and you can come to a discovery at that point.
Absolutely. Yeah. So speaking of the future, we would really love to make another class in Czech Republic, probably next year.
Okay.
Just because Ross is so busy with,
of course,
performing TPC Mastery or TPC ideas and spreading them all over the world. So we would love to do another class. The question is if it's going to be continuation of the TPC Mastery, but we have some idea. We would love to make probably this.
Surprise me.
Probably a rifle.
I'll be surprised. Anyway.
Why not to make that to a kind of an annual event? Like a tradition.
Yeah.
Yes, that would be awesome.
If we can collect the minimum for your course, then why not?
I believe so.
We'll make a big advertisement. So everybody listening to this next year going to TPC course.
Yeah, for me as an organizer, the goal was to bring the guys, and then let the students go through, and then let them spread it.
Yeah,
spread the good word of the Lord.
Yeah, exactly. So I believe for the next year we have at least few of the already, the ones who already passed the course, but we will have a different topic, same ideology but different topic, different, style. So yeah, I'm super excited about it.
All right.
It will be fun. It will be fun, and Czech Republic, it's like the cornerstones in Europe about firearms
legislation,
and firearms legislations, and I'm pretty aware that you actually adopted something pretty close, like a Second Amendment in the Constitution.
Yes, yeah.
So
that's correct.
So
that's what we really appreciate.
Yeah, it's important. I truly believe that's really important. It's necessary.
Yeah, that's something what makes me really happy.
All right.
Lately.
Anything else we want to discuss?
I think we are good.
All right. So thank you very much for joining our podcast. It was great. I really enjoyed it. We went through a lot of topics. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, I'm gladful that or thankful. I'm glad that you came to Czech Republic, that you participated, that you brought the ideas to the Czech community. I really admire that. Thank you very much for coming in. Thank you for doing that class. Thank you for accepting the invitation to participate on podcast. We really appreciate that. And man, fingers crossed. I hope to see you very soon. And yeah, all the best.
Something you want to say?
All the best.
I hope that too. I hope that too. Again, it was a pleasure and honor as well, and it was very interesting. And again, it was really nice pleasure to see so experienced instructors in the class, so experienced shooters in the class as well. And they kept open-minded, and it was a great time. Plus, I love Czech Republic in general. I love the shooting community here. I like the beautiful nature. I love Czech's beer a lot. And it's amazing. So it's
Okay.
it's
Thank
a
you.
great experience.
Thank you again. So this is all from Czech Farms podcast. Please follow also the other platforms. We are not just on YouTube. We are everywhere.
Yeah,
and
Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. See you next time.
See you next time.
Everywhere.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye.